Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the pandemic and we are back with a bang. We will be talking to one of the most interesting personalities in the legal industry today. And why I say that is because he's a lawyer, but lectures in management schools on management. He has published his internal memos in a book that I promise to be one of the interesting reads in the legal industry. The policies in his firm truly break the stereotypes and really forward looking. And besides being a lawyer, I see him as a great storyteller as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Nishith Desai to the Great Legal Minds. Nishith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone.
And so, in fact, I will be covering a lot of questions today, and not typically the questions that are put forth in front of a lawyer. I would be actually talking a bit about the business of law. So, my first question to you is that a lot of firms are being run by lawyers, obviously, but as against the advice by those wise men about practice management, etc., which says that a managing partner should be spending almost 70% of his time in practice management and 30% on lawyering. But that's the other way around in India. How do you see that phenomena? And do you think that actually affects the growth of the firm? Because India hasn't really truly seen, too many international law firms coming out of India. So how do you react to that?
So first of all, if you ask me, what is the purpose for which we are doing all this, right? Now, each one might have his own perspective. I would not be judgmental on that. Okay. And some people have begun to think that the legal profession is a business. Somehow or the other, I'm still old school to believe that we are still in the profession of law. Okay. Although you need to have commercial acumen, you need to have business sense, that's different. But commercializing law beyond a point would take away the fundamental element of being a professional. The job satisfaction, the happiness quotient, everything will be compromised for money. Okay. And what happened, as I see historically in last 50 years, if I may say so. So, for example, legal profession actually about 100 years ago was considered to be nobler than noble. That means better than medical profession. Of course, I'm not talking comparative, just generally. That was the sense, Slowly, there was a supply of lawyers, or somewhere along the line, the whole derailment happened in 50s, 60s, etc. Then suddenly there was demand for engineers, and then demand for medical surgeon, then demand for chartered accountant, and suddenly there was, investment banking. Now what happened, the accounting firms began to see that bankers are making a lot of money. Okay. MBAs make a lot of money. And therefore they started emulating investment bankers. The whole focus went on a different tangent, with respect. And so that became one of the issues. Now, if you know, is MBA a profession? Somebody would say yes or no, okay. But Nitin Nehoria, who is the dean of Harvard Business School, says it is not a profession because there is no binding code of conduct. Therefore, on Wall Street, you can do anything, We lawyers cannot just jump on to, say because there is some interest in the deal and cut and all those. It is not there. Fortunately, I think that is no, but accounting firms again became multifarious, and they had their accounting work, which was their core, to the business consulting, to banking, to this or that, all those kind of things began to happen, Now, over a period of time, many lawyers and law firms began to emulate accounting firms. Okay. And that is where the distraction began in some ways, I'm not being judgmental here, whether they're right or wrong, but as I see from my perspective, that the whole orientation towards commercialization happened. It was perhaps necessary little bit because you have to be financially sound, you have to be economically all right, but you cannot lose out intellectual portion, service to the client, because the fundamental difference between business and profession is business, money comes first, service comes next. Okay. In the profession, of course, service comes first, and of course, business comes next or money comes. I'm not, again, trying to be too judgmental, but the whole orientation, therefore, is to, you'll give a lot of things because you think this doesn't suit my professional, etiquette or professional code of conduct. So as I saw the evolution happen, and in the process, everybody started into that race. If you say some of the largest law firms in 60s and 70s, even in New York or wherever, there were 50, 60, 70 lawyers. Suddenly, the scale up began and the size became important. When I look at organizational behavior, everybody wanted to be the biggest, it became a rat race. Okay. And in the process, I see that there's a lot of distortion which possibly should not have happened. At the same time, of course, some things, for example, adoption of technology and stuff like that is a different thing. But if you ask me frankly, I think that is where the derailment happened. And I think that, yes, as a managing partner, what do I want? Why did I, for example, set up law firm? I am litigator originally. I'm a counsel. Okay, it was 1973, I passed out my law. 1977, I did my LLM with international business and globalization and international tax and all this kind of thing. And then I saw many counsels, okay, with great names with whom I had an opportunity to work. And they were extremely inspirational. Okay, and my icon is Palkiwala always, not only tax lawyer, as a tax, as a lawyer personality himself. And I always wondered that, as a new generation, where do I take his lessons to? So I said, let me create a generation of lawyers who are socially conscious. So therefore, I said, if I create something, institutionalize the practice, possibly I can leave behind few people who may take forward the ideas. So that is how I started. And as I was saying, so today, you depending on the stage at which you are, you end up spending that much time. If you're early on, you want to establish your reputation as a lawyer. You don't give up your practice.
Right.
Now doing the international tax, international law, and stuff like that, right? But as you go and you train more people and let them fly free, put them in the middle of ocean, then they will do a lot more things than sometimes you can achieve. So you train more people and leave next generation. So giving back to next generation is our obligation. And therefore, I think that, and as time goes by, then from 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, depending on the time that is required for managing, overall, it does take a lot of time at times in management because things are changing fast and, you have to adapt to new things. So you have a lot of experience. So one would, understand that you have to constantly effect a change.
So let me ask you another question. Actually, that brings me to another question, which is that, so then how about the professional management? I mean, I understand that, but, ultimately, it's a professional service. It is ultimately, it has to run, it has to feed people. So, how do you react to, professionals who actually come and manage the entire business for you and you do the lawyering?
Well, the way in which particularly professions work, okay, two things happen. One, if you bring outside people to manage your firm and outsource that.
No, not outsourcing. It is basically having
even internally, you meant to say who are non-lawyers who manage it. That is what is your question?
Right. And that is about business.
I was trying to say the same thing, that if you try to bring outsiders to manage the law firm, okay, first of all, you will have to tell them what is the purpose for which you're bringing. If you say, I want to be commercially successful, which is where most of the CEOs and others come from outside, your whole orientation, behavior would be different. Okay. And it is very important for professionals to imbibe value system in the organization. So I personally feel that, uh, it may not be advisable to just completely bring outsider who has no understanding of professional ethics, or even though he has, but is where, how to draw judgmental line, where to do what are the policies you put in place, for example. For example, we as lawyers will always talk about human rights, but how much those ones will be imbibed into our own firm will be an important question, right? Whereas for a commercial organization, they will say, okay, here is big commercial opportunity and I would compromise on that. Here is something else. So of course, everything is changing at this point in time, but I believe there are no absolute answers, but I would for a moment think that at uh, at the at the thinking level, okay, you need lawyers who understand their responsibility, their obligation to the society. Those are the kind of things. There will be some exceptions who may be not lawyers may understand that, but it is very critical to understand where to draw lines when it comes to. I'm therefore, uh, believer that it is better that broader contours are drawn uh, by lawyers who understand professional ethics and professional, issues and all those kind of things. That's where my concern is. So it is otherwise again your mandate is different. No, you say okay, you become CEO and get my revenue from X to Y. It's a very different way of thinking. Okay, if my mandate is that we want to build next generation of socially conscious lawyers, that is what I feel. Now to build that, then the mandate is different. So both are important, but at the same time, I'm just making.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that organizations which are not law firms are also absolutely ethical, and they are running ethical practices. And it is not about imbibing the value. It is about actually running the organization more efficiently. And if you actually brief people with the vision that they have, they may be able to do the trick for you. But I note your answer to that, and let me just ask you
Saying
another
for a
question.
moment, but I believe that it will be hard to find who fully understand, has insight into what is the profession. It is like exactly, you got hospitals run by management professionals is one way of doing things, right? Now the orientation you saw even during pandemic, focus was to make money, okay, and less was on the servicing. There are a lot of trade-offs that happen. Professional will think one way, I would think other way, right? So I'm just again not being judgmental here. Please don't
More of
get me.
promoters.
And the way in which I have actually found, I have a lot of professional people who are not necessarily lawyers in management. Okay, they are top technologists, they are social scientists, many other kind of people. But the direction has to come from somebody who has imbibed professional values.
Right, right. I agree.
It will it will be a distortion, and the charm of being in the practice would wither away. That is what all we aspire for, right?
Right. Now tell me, what is new happening in NDA at the moment? I mean, what are the new things that you people are up to? What are the innovations happening?
Yeah, I think if I may just tell you, it's a long story historically, but to be quick, when I set up law firm in 1990, I studied over 100 professional services organizations around the world, interviewed managing partners and senior people and so on and so forth. And so it was law firms, accounting firms, consulting firms. McKinsey helped us also to build the firm in some ways. And my interest was myself research. So research has been always my research innovation has been my passion. That's the core. Okay. So in 1990, when I set up law firm, obviously I looked at most of the law firms at 100-year history. Now, I poor fellow, this new kid on the block, right?
Right.
And so what happened was that I started thinking, what can we do here? In profession, we are not in, at least I personally feel, again, we are not in a rat race. In rat race, it's only rats win.
Right. But in fact, the time when you started, that was the time pretty much when the corporate side of law firm actually started to grow. I think that was an absolutely
Exactly. So the whole focus of most of the law firms I studied was to grow big and grow big fast. So inorganic mergers, acquisition, that everybody wanted to be the biggest one, etc. Full service law firm and all that thing. So as I said, I went back to my core, okay, and I took completely contrarian view to be a nano firm because I saw nanotechnology. It's very
yeah.
tiny yet, right? But its power is million times more than anything else. So I said that in the profession, it's not about head count, it's about brain count. One Mr. Palkiwala, you look at all commercial parameters, right? I'm just giving example, okay, whose brand equity was better, whether any of the professional accounting firm, everybody put, whose brand equity was good, one single person, whose per person revenue, okay, who's inside, who's all those kind of things, if you put it. So I said, if everybody wants to build a big law firm, let me build a small law firm, okay, and have brain count. So I had no pressure of hiring, on the contrary, you got more people coming to you, there is no problem, but you select people who are socially conscious, and who have some interest in changing the world for the better. So I'm just mentioning that I took a little contrarian view. Number two, I saw these firms had 100-year history and they can look back with pride, and rightly so. It's not easy to survive. It's so difficult to survive 100 years, right? And they've gone through all the hip laws, whatever it is, And because I have no history, what do I do? So I said, okay, if they can look back 100 years, let me look forward 100 years and I can be complementary. I don't have to compete on everything, and whole competition mindset to an extent is fine, but beyond a point, okay, it's unproductive. It only brings stress. Competition only brings stress. Whereas a pleasure of working as professional is dead, then there's no problem, no use doing it. So I said, let me look to the future. So philosophy came up that every new technology, every new business model, every new social, political, or economic development brings along with it a new strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issue. So I said, okay, instead of looking back, which I have no past, why not look to next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now and see what new technologies will be coming? What will be new business models that will be building up? What will be new social, political, economic changes that will be coming? And visualize what will be the future strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issue. And what happened when I started law firm, which lawyer will join? Because everybody wants to join big law firm. So it happened that I got one electronics engineer who didn't get visa to go to the US and came to me crying at home and saying that this is why my life's dream is shattered. I've got admission in good engineering school. My visa is declined and now. So I thought that I said, I'm not an immigration lawyer. I cannot just call up US consulate and say, give me visa. So I said, now just wait. And so he said, but what do? I said, why don't you do law? So he did law. So we started with hiring electronics engineer. Then he started law in 3 years' time. We finished. Then I had gold medalist, started accountant joining. Then somebody else joining. So I had to start non-lawyers and again integrate them into the legal field. But I made everybody try to say that you become lawyer, etc. Anyway, so as you know, so this really helped us a lot because we spent huge amount of time then and huge amount of time even now we are spending on research, academics, thought leadership concerning this visualization exercise, So we look to next 3, 5 years, 10 years. And as I mentioned that like blockchain, we specialized 2012, 13. Okay, electronic uh, vehicles, EV vehicles, autonomous vehicles, drones. Now we are specializing flying cars, IoT, 3D printing, good new protein, AR, VR, medical devices. So a lot of those specialties we created as we went along. And in trend assessment and forecasting, we started doing. Those days we failed on 8 trends that we identified never happened, but did not happen in time. And 1 or 2 paid off reasonably well, like through venture capitalists. So we spend, these are very expensive propositions to invest in. And but 1 or 2 paid off and that allowed us to survive. And then over a period of time, that became trend. And now today, when we identify about 8, 10 trends, about 80% success rate is there. They happen according to the time zone. So we are able to now distribute our risk over a period of time also. Okay, because these are, now we are a little more structured in that sense to understand. I'm sorry I went on too long, but so when actual time comes, then we are somewhat ready to meet those challenges. So most high-tech issues in any field, not only technology, but in economics or social or whatever, because those ones are driving forces, like economic things are driven more towards impact, for example, today. Now we specialize impact in 2009-10. Okay. And Professor Yunus even awarded as social enterprise contribution and whatnot. So I think idea was to look to the future based on the premise that future may be uncertain, but is not unthinkable. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
And
a
that is how the whole process happened. It's a very, very different model, and that allows us to do highest quality work in shortest possible time because we are already in state of preparedness. Go ahead.
I think that gives a lot of hope to young organizations who are setting up. And I think it's a brilliant story that I heard from you today. And how do you actually look at the competition, and how do you actually look inwards and build from there? So I think that's a good management lesson for a lot of youngsters who are starting off now.
In fact, one other small thing I may mention, we have a policy never to go for headhunting. We don't like to poach. Everyone would want to poach our people. Everyone, okay? But we don't go and poach. We don't want to kill. We are in the profession of law again. We are not in the business. We don't want to spoil. Yeah, people come on their own with their passion or stuff like that. They stay and then it's good. Okay, fine. And so we have tried to imbibe some 37 philosophy some point in time. I can, show you the list and all that thing. But, we don't poach anybody. We believe in co-petition, not in competition. So all the research work that we have done by and large, we put it in public domain.
Right. In fact,
lawyers, so many organizations even copy sometimes and all that thing. But we say, okay, we are in profession of law. I'm not in the business. Yes. So long as somebody doesn't abuse it, it's fine, As professionals, our job is to work together.
and share knowledge. I
So
think which is absolutely
as I
important.
said, to start with, the mindset was to create professional firm, not a commercial organization. Start
Right.
with, it was very clear, we don't want to grow big, we want to stay small. So a lot of other undue pressures which are coming up were not there. We have more work than what we need because we have stayed small.
Absolutely. I think this is a great mantra today when everybody is talking about mental health and all the pressures that are crumbling organizations, crumbling people. I think that's a great philosophy to go with, and a great takeaway from the discussion today.